history of science and technology in ancient India. His published work has been reviewed, abstracted in mathematical reviews, statistical theory, and methods abstract. His research work is widely cited in various national and international journals. He has delivered lectures in various universities abroad, such as University of Ulm and University of Dortmund in Germany, Middle East Technical University Ankara, University of Wollongong, Australia, University of Salzburg, Austria, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. He has supervised 11 doctoral and more than 200 masters, MTech, and MSc dissertations. He is or has been a member of doctoral scrutiny committee of more than 100 research scholars of various departments of IIT Kharagpur. He has been on editorial board and referee of many national and international journals. He has received Platinum Jewelry Lecture Award of Indian Science Congress Association in the year 2016. He has also organized 4 workshops on mathematics for school children, organized invited sessions on decision theory, ranking, and selection procedures in various international conferences. He was the convener of Statistics and Mathematics section of Indian Science Congress and secretary of workshop on quantum information, computation, and communication at IIT Kharagpur. He has also been a member of organizing committees of some national and international conferences. He has delivered many lectures and talks in various national and international conferences, symposia, and workshops. He has been associated with Indian Mathematics Olympiad activity and has been actively involved in various co-curricular, extracurricular, and administrative activities of the Institute. Currently, he is Dean of Students Affairs at IIT Kharagpur. Sir is going to orient us on Indian origin of modern numerals and decimal place value system. I would like to invite Professor Somesh Kumar. Sir, please.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for, first of all, for organizing such an excellent conference, as well as inviting me and Professor Sen so that we can put in perspective from IIT Kharagpur side regarding the contribution of IIT Kharagpur to Indian knowledge system, to the growth of Indian knowledge system. So I think all of you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. I'm just sharing my screen. I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It is visible.
Okay, yeah.
Professor Kumar.
Yeah. So before I start presenting, I will like to make some comments here because this is a conference on the Indian knowledge systems, and I mean, of course, we have that. That it is a solution for the sustainable well-being. Our first speaker, Dr. Padam Shri, Dr. Nagendra, he mentioned about the yoga and other contributions of the Indians. So, of course, I think it is indisputable that yoga and Ayurveda is one of the most profound contributions of India to the world. And of course, in the last 125 years, I mean, starting from Dr. Swami Vivekananda, it became known to the world that yoga is actually a contribution from the India to the world, and it has extensive benefits. As Professor Joy Sen just now mentioned also, that if you go to a nook and corner of Germany or in USA, you will find a yoga clinic. In fact, I also had the same experience when I was visiting Germany. In fact, I visited 3 consecutive years before this pandemic started. And where I was having my apartment, I just saw just across the street, there was a yoga clinic, and it was, it was a yoga center, and it was some German person who was actually a yoga guru. It was written there on this one. However, what is not appreciated is that the complete modern science, technology, and mathematical development would not have been possible without the contribution of India, that is the creation of the modern numeral system and the decimal place value system. So in some sense, it is even more profound than these, because you can say that, okay, we have old medicine system, so we have a new medicine system, we have a modern allopathic system, we have homeopathic system, and we have other things. In place of yoga, we may say that, okay, there are certain other kind of exercises and many other kind of things. However, if you look at mathematics, the contribution is so profound that people have actually not bothered about it. It is something like invention of a wheel or fire kind of thing. And therefore, in last 2-3 years, when I started joining the activities of the science and technology in ancient India, when our humanities and social sciences department, they started organizing some workshop. And then they started a course on history of science and technology in ancient India. And I was asked to look at the mathematics portion. So I did my own research in that area. And then I found that there was a systematic attempt by, say, Europeans or by other people to completely ignore the Indian contribution. And it is so profound that without this, actually, the modern development would not have taken place at all. So then, of course, I looked into various kind of texts, and then I found that that there are now a lot of important textbooks and a lot of important research sources which actually propound that Indian contribution is actually original to India, and then now the modern mathematical system is based on that. So now let me, with this little background, let me start my presentation. I think I will try to complete in half an hour, but there is a lot of material, but I'll try to complete within time. Okay, so there has been many theories regarding the origin of modern numeral and decimal place value system. So these are, of course, everybody says them to be Arabic numerals, but actually this is not Arabic at all. So I will talk about that. So with revival of interest in Indian knowledge since the late 19th century, as has already been mentioned, that starting from Swami Vivekananda and many other people, so many researchers, they started discovering inscriptions, stone carvings, plaques, stamps, seals. In fact, in Professor Sen's presentation, you have seen the example of seals, some Indus Valley seals, some charters, tablets, manuscripts on, say, palm leaves, papyrus, on cloth, etc., which are related to Indian mathematics. So extensive epigraphic and paleographic evidence proves that the modern numeral system actually originated in India. Further development of the place value system, and actually it laid the foundation of almost all the important mathematics that has been developed elsewhere in the world. So in this presentation, I will give some evidences actually. So I will tell first of all what were the attempts which wanted to appropriate the origin of numerals by other countries, followed by historical European and Arabic references pointing to Indian origin. Numerous symbols for numerals which are prevalent in various scripts of India are shown. So actually I have made it by hand. That is why I have prepared the handwritten sheets so that actually you can see that how they are there, because in typing I cannot make it like that. And then through Sanskrit text, it is established that the decimal place value system, it refers to the unique numbers. And through historical text, it is established that the Indians were using very high as well as very small numbers. So this is what I will start the presentation now. So you can see this. So we can say that the Indian civilization is the cradle of modern numerals. So since the beginning of 20th century, a wealth of reliable information has been compiled. So I will tell you now that other people, they wanted to appropriate this, that they wanted to somehow find out that it originated in Greece, it originated in Egypt, it originated in North Africa, and so on. So I will just give you certain funny theories that are actually prevalent. So one of them, it is saying that Arabic numerals were actually invention of a glassmaker cum geometer from a place called Maghreb. who came up with the idea of giving each of these numerals a shape. And how he is giving the idea that the number of angles each one has being equal to the number it denoted, which is of course very laughable kind of thing, but I will show you that. So you can just look at this. So if you look at this, you can easily understand the absurdness of this argument here. So you can look at the numbers. So 1 they have drawn like this and created an angle here, and the 2 they have written like this and created 2 angles in between here. Then 3 has been written, this 3 has been written in this particular fashion, and they have inserted 3 angles here. Then 4, so now you can see that the traditional 4 is like this, but they removed this line and they considered 4 angles like this. And similarly you can see about the 5, 1 2 3 4 5. For 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now you can see that 7 is like this, so you can't actually have a 7 angles. So what they did, they have considered artificially one line here. So 2 angles are constructed here, 1 here, and 1 line here where 4 angles are created. So you can see here that this looks so absurd, but this is one of the theories that was prevalent. Second one is similar kind of theory. It is by a Frenchman by name P. Vizard, and he put it that numerals were formed by certain number of lines. So in place of angles, he talks about lines. So you look at this 1. Now you can see this 1 is like this, so he counts it as 1 line. So now for everything else, you have to adjust to that only. So 2 should be 2 lines. So what they did, they removed this middle portion and considered 2 lines. And in 3, so you consider only this horizontal part and remove the vertical part. Then 4, then you remove this oblique line and consider only this and call them as 4 lines. For 5, then for 6, then for 7, again it is difficult, so they constructed in a very funny way, and 8 and 9. So 9, again it is looking very, very awkward. But this is another fanciful theory which was put forward. A third hypothesis is by some Italian Giusit and one German person, and they have tried to put it as a geometrical reasoning. So you look at this, they have put in place of angles or lines, they have put dots there. So on one dot is put, on two dots are put, but it is not clear why they should be put here only, why not here. For 3 dots are put, but again it is not clear why there should not be a dot here. Then for 4 dots are put. For 5 dots are put. The most funny things are in 7 and 9, you can see. So this is another fanciful explanation of the origin of the numerals. The next hypothesis is again by another person called Wilder. He attributes it to the 10th century astrologer called Abendgall. And he says that the invention of the numerals was part result of constructing this into the shape, the division of the shape, parts of the shape by circle and its diameters. So you can look at this. I will just show this here. You can see this here. So 1, 2 here. So they are considering 2 here. For 3, 1, 2, and 3. Again, you can see to make it convenient, they have changed the shape of 3. Then 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. And again, this one is removed. So to suit the hypothesis, they are changing the shape of the numerals themselves. So this is about this hypothesis, which again looks very, very absurd. In the 5th hypothesis, it says that you do some sort of counting by putting some kind of dots here, which they call stones. So this is by some Spanish person. And again, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So different kind of dots are put here to count the actual number. Then there is another one called Legend of Solomon Rings, which says that the numerals were formed successively by the ring inscription in the square and its diagonals. Again, it looks very, very funny. So I will not get into that again, reading this thing. So what are the flaws of these hypotheses? The flaws are very obvious here, that it says that the appearance of numerals has some spontaneous generation and it is perfectly logical, which it is very funny. Then second one is that there is no explanation of the fact that various shapes have been used over centuries in different parts of the world and they have continuous evolution. So how can you say that it is developed by somebody in Egypt or somebody in Greece or somebody in Spain and so on? And it looks at the best a posteriori hypothesis, that by looking at the shape and then molding it in their different ways and just trying to fit into those dots or lines or the angles, they try to change that thing. So it contradicts the historical facts, it contradicts the epigraphic and paleographic research. And the most important part is to call it Arabic numerals. That itself is a result of serious historical error, because there is no trace of it in the actual Arabic documents themselves. Nowhere they are called Arabic numerals. So it could be that since the numbers traveled from Indian subcontinent to Arabians and then from Arabians to Europe, so maybe they started calling them Arabic numerals. So that could be one of the possible explanation. What is very important to note here is that it is Greeks, they were inventors of astronomy, many theories in science, engineering, philosophy, medicine, mathematics, etc. So it is very improbable to say that they knew this place value system and the Hindu numerals. Actually, they have never used it. They actually used Roman numerals and also they have used alphabets. So if they knew this, they would have developed the mathematics at least using all these symbols, but they have not used it. So these hypotheses are very, very contradictory and they cannot be considered reliable at all. So now I go to the next part. So I will give you evidences from European as well as the Arabic literature, which proves that India is the true birthplace of our numerals. And I mentioned this point itself, that the discovery of numerals itself can be put at par with the invention of fire, wheel, agriculture, writing, steam engine, and so on. What we have observed here is that when we were going through the manuscripts, that the Indian mathematicians and astronomers were more concerned with practical applications, and therefore they were motivated by a passion for numbers and the numerical calculations. So I will go in the reverse chronological order, and those who are familiar with the names, you can easily identify. For example, the first evidence that I am presenting is by Pierre-Simon Laplace, one of the most famous mathematicians. In fact, he is called the Newton of France, and anybody who has done mathematics at any level of graduation or post-graduation, so you know how many results are named after Laplace, including Laplace distribution. We also have Laplace wave equation, Laplace heat equation. I mean, Laplace results are abounding everywhere. And he says that the ingenious method of expressing every possible number using a set of 10 symbols, where each symbol has a place value and an absolute value. So for example, the number 2, it has a place value, it also has an absolute value. The number 3, it is having a place value as well as an absolute value. It emerged in India. The idea seems so simple nowadays that its significance and profound importance is no longer appreciated. Its simplicity lies in the way it facilitated calculation and placed arithmetic foremost among useful inventions. The importance of this invention is more readily appreciated when one considers that it was beyond the two greatest men of antiquity, that is Archimedes and Apollonius. So we know the timing of Archimedes and Apollonius. They are much before, I mean, they have the before Christ timings, but they could not. So therefore, Laplace appreciates this. And similarly, then there are many other quotations, and I think many of them you can recognize. For example, John Wallis. So John Wallis we know because Wallis formula, Wallis series, we study in mathematics. So he referred to the 9 numerals as the Indian figures. Again, Cartono we know again as a mathematician. So again he refers to it that the 9 figures are from India. Villicius in 1540 he refers to these as Indian figures. I'm doing the reverse chronological order. So in 1350 AD, so it is one of the oldest known English arithmetical tract, and it says, and so it is written in Latin kind of thing. So you can see that 0987, of course, written in different way, and you can see here he refers to these as the figures of Inde. You can see here. Then the Petrush of Dacia in 1291, he wrote a commentary on a work entitled Algorithmus by Sacrobosco, and Sacrobosco that is John of Halifax in 1240, in which he says that not every number can be represented in Indian figures. So although his statement is wrong, but he refers to these as the Indian figures. Then again there is a Byzantine monk in 1260 to 1310. He composed a text called Logistica Indica, which is actually Indian arithmetic, and he says it the Indian way of counting, and he talks about the 9 figures. In fact, you can also say that most of the time they talk about the 9 figures, and 0 sometimes they are putting, sometimes they are not putting. That also shows that many times they could not appreciate the role of 0 because they did not understand the decimal place value system. So anyway, some of them they have mentioned. So a sign known as Zifra can be added to this, which according to Indians means nothing. So he did not appreciate it fully, that what is the contribution of 0, but he at least mentioned that it is a contribution from India. Then there are quotations. So I will not read each of them, but few of them. So I think everybody has heard the Fibonacci series of numbers. So it is actually Leonardo of Pisa. So in 1202 he wrote a tract on arithmetic, which is titled Liber Abaci. It is actually a tract about abacus, and he writes like this: my father was a public scribe of Baggia, where he worked for his country in customs, defending the interests of Pisan merchants. So Pisa is a place in Italy. So Pisan merchants means merchants of Pisa. He made me to learn how to use abacus when I was still a child, because he saw how I could benefit from that in the later life. In this way, I learned the art of counting using the 9 Indian figures. And he actually writes them 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he says that is why with the 9 numerals and with this sign 0 called Zephyrium in Arab, one writes all the number one wishes. Again, John of Sevilla. So in 1150, and he again writes that thing. So he actually says the Indians ingenuously enclose this infinite multiplicity within certain rules. That means he is aware of the decimal place value system. That means the numbers can be increased. You can write big numbers and so on, so that infinity could be scientifically defined. In fact, he meant that infinity means that big numbers. These strict rules enabled them to pin down the subtle constant. Well, again, there are other references like Robert of Chester in 1143, Bishop of Taldeo. And so again, I will just read out the names. The Book of Algorithmy of Indian Figures. Again, a book in 1130, Algorithmy of Indian Figures. A monk named Vigila in 976. And again, he says, the same applies to arithmetic figures. It should be noted that Indians have an extremely subtle intelligence, and when it comes to arithmetic, geometry, and other such advanced disciplines, other ideas must make way for theirs. The best proof of this is the 9 figures with which they represent each number, no matter how high. So then we go back to Arabic sources. So I just mentioned that there is a misnomer that we call them to be Arabic numerals, but Arabs themselves always mention or refer them to as Indian figures. So you can see, again, I will go in the reverse chronological order. There is a book called Khulasat al-Hisab, which is dated 1600 AD, and it says it was actually the Indians who invented 9 characters. Then we have Abul Hasan al-Kalasadi, and he again refers to Indians. There is another one text in 1390. So it says Arabs first learned about science from the Indians along with their figures and methods of calculation in CE 776. So probably he refers to the year of attack of Arabs on that Sindh area. But he mentions very clearly that the science and the mathematics they learned from Indians. There are other books also, which is Talqis fi Mal al-Hisab, which is actually, we can say, a brief guide to mathematical operations, which is dated around 1300 AD, and it refers to again Indian origin of figures and counting techniques. Sorry. Another book in 1230, it refers to, again it says Hisab al-Hindi, which means Indian arithmetic. A Persian encyclopedist is there, and he was dated from 1149 to 1206. He wrote a book which is again, it contains a chapter Hisab al-Hindi, that is Indian calculations. There is another mathematician. He wrote a book called Al-Bahir fi Ilm al-Hisab, which is the translated to the title, The Lucid Book of Arithmetic, which again makes a direct reference to the Indian origin of figures and methods of calculation. So similarly, there are many other books. I will quickly move to the next one. So I think everybody is familiar with the name of a person named Al-Biruni, who actually during the Sultanate rule, that time he actually visited India. That means at that time when this Mahmud of Ghazni used to attack India, and there used to be some people coming along with that. So his time is from 973 to 1048 AD, and he lived in India for almost 30 years, and he wrote a number of works. And one of the books he wrote is called Book of Figures, and he refers to arithmetic and counting using Sindh and Indian figures. And one of the most important works about India to be written at that time, it is called Kitab fi Tahik Aima Lil Hind, and he mentions the diversity of the graphical forms of the figures used in India. So again, I will come back to this because if you see the Indian subcontinent, so we have different regions. For example, you have Kashmir, you have Punjab, you have Assam, you have Bengal, you have Tamil Nadu. So it is unlikely that every place they use the same symbols. So since he traveled across, he found that different graphical forms were used. So therefore, all of them, he then mentions that it is obvious that they originated in India. Otherwise, in different regions, they would not have used different things. If it was coming from Europe or if it was coming from China, then the same symbols would have been used across India. So he says that the Indians use these numerical signs in their arithmetic. I have written a tract which shows in as much detail as possible how much more advanced the Indians are than we are in this field. Then of course again there are many other references, so I will just skip this to save time. And now let us go to pre-Islamic Syria. So a Syrian bishop by name Severus Sabok, he studied philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy at monastery of Kandar, which is at the banks of Euphrates, the river Euphrates. The place was exposed to a wealth of knowledge, being at the confluence of Greek, Mesopotamian, and Indian learning traditions. And he wrote a manuscript in that he wrote, the Hindus who are not even Syrians have made subtle discoveries in the field of astronomy, which are even more ingenious than those of Greeks and Babylonians, as for their skillful methods of calculation and their computing, which belies description. They use 9 figures. If those who think they are sole pioneers of science simply because they speak Greek had known of these innovations, they would have realized that there are those others who speak different languages who are also knowledgeable. So Sebok's evidence conclusively proves that the Indian counting system was known and esteemed outside India by the middle of the 7th century. And it is interesting to find that this Sebok's reference is actually quoted in Jawaharlal Nehru's discovery of India also. I was just going through that, and he has also quoted that the Indian numeral system is original to India, and he has actually quoted Sebok's quotation. So now we come to the proof of the event. So we find out the various kind of things. I will skip this very quickly and let us come to the symbols that were available. So to prove that all these discoveries took place in India, irrespective of any other outside influence, it is most important to note that the Indian numerical notation was available in entire Indian region. So by entire Indian region, as I mentioned, we mentioned Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Assam to Sindh. In every place, you had different notations. It proves that they were all developed indigenously. Otherwise, they would not have different symbols. So I will start from Nagari figures. These Nagari figures are prevalent in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, etc. You can see different writing styles for number 1, for the number 2, for the number 3, for the number 4, for the number 5. And you can see here that the number 5 is most surprising because it looks like the current current European tradition that we write 4. It is actually 5 there. Similarly, you can see the different styles for 6, 7, 8. So I have written so many styles here because so many of variations are prevalent. For 9, and those who had their studies in vernacular language in your childhood, I think you can appreciate most of these symbols. Let us go to next one. So you can see Marathi figures. So if there is a participant in this conference from Maharashtra and who has his study in Marathi in his school, probably you can appreciate that also. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is again different here. 4 is different. Then you can see 6, 7, 8, 9. And so this is in the areas of Kokar, Daman, Diu, north of Gujarat, and so on. Then you have Punjabi figures. So again, by Punjabi, we mean some area of Punjab. There are other areas of Punjab where you had different scripts. So you can, these are known as, these are referred to as Punjabi figures. These are used in certain areas of which are bordering Pakistan. That is the river valleys of Indus, Chenab, Jhelum, etc. And also in some parts of Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. Then of course you have Sindhi figures. those who are knowing the Sindhi businessman, if you have seen that they keep some bookkeeping in the shops, if you have gone, and if you see, these numbers will be written below the certain divine figures they will keep there, and you may note that these figures are written if you can see carefully. So then again, this is Gurumukhi figures, which is again similar to the Punjabi figures. You have Gujarati figures, Kaithi figures. So Kaithi, of course, I think many of you appreciate that it is a language, or you can say script, used by people who write what you call ledger, that is Bahi Khata. And many of them they use, so it is used in certain parts of Bihar, Gujarat, Eastern UP, and so on. Then you have Bengali figures, and you can see that there is a marked deviation from the other scripts. There is a somewhat different from other figures used in India. But again, there are a lot of variations, and the numbers 1 to 9 and 0, they are there. You have Maithili figures, Uriya figures, Takari figures, which is used some parts of Kashmir and Dogri. Again, a lot of part of the northern India, they use something called Sharda figures. So Sharda script was there. So 1, you can see these symbols are quite different, 2, 3, 4. And you can appreciate that actually the northern part, like the Kashmir and all, their script and the speaking style is quite different from other parts of the country. So that shows in the script, the symbols for the numerals also. So I'll just very quickly go through this thing. So Nepali you can see, and then again you can see Tibet. So Tibet, of course, I am mentioning because earlier the Tibet was closer to Indian thing compared to now. Of course, it's part of China because China has occupied it, but they are closer in the spirit to Indian continent. Then you have Tamil, and of course you can note here one important part, that 0 was missing in the Tamil one. So that also supports some hypothesis that Tamil script may be more ancient than the Sanskrit. So, but again, it shows that even in the Tamil tradition, the numbers were there. Then you have Malayalam. So Tamil and Malayalam both do not have the symbol for 0. But if you look at other traditions there, like Telugu and then Kannada, they had 0 there. And their writing style is quite different. And their other available symbols are Sinhalese, Burmese, Khmer, Balinese, Javanese figures, which means that probably with the travel of the Indian merchants, etc., to eastern part or to the southeast part of Asia, these symbols would have traveled there, and also the local would have developed this one. So there is no doubt, again I will just try to repeat here, that there is no doubt about their common origin. So probably there was something original, so which says that you had Brahmi as the mother of all Indian writings. So it is clear from extensive paleographical research that they all derive directly or indirectly from the same source. And the oldest known writings of the Indian subcontinent appeared on the stamps and the plaques of the Indus Valley civilization. However, the writings have not been deciphered, so there is a lot of gap between them and the next known writings which are available from the time of Ashoka, whose empire actually extended from Afghanistan to Bengal, from Nepal to Deccan. So his inscriptions are mainly made here, that is the rocks and the columns where the diverse writing styles have been used, and Brahmi has been used in most of his edicts. So it means that the Brahmi script must have been widely used at that point of time. And of course, I don't have to read this history. I'll go immediately to the next part. In maybe next 5 minutes, I will tell that before the advent of the numeral notation, how in the writings we found that in Sanskrit we had the unique names for each of the numbers. So how nicely they represented. So I'll very quickly come to that. I think I am exhausting my time, so I will just very quickly go to that. Yeah. So we come to here, the Sanskrit part here. what is surprising that for each number there were several synonyms. Like for 1 they use the Eka, Pitamaha, Adi, Tanu, Chiti, Abja, Indu, Soma, and so on. For the number 2, it was Dvi. So Dvi is the common name for 2. Then Ashwin, Yama, Yamal, Yugal, Netra, Bahu, Gulfan, Paksha, and so on. For 3, the ordinary symbol is 3, that is Trinetra, Triguna, Triloka. So the synonyms which are used in the Sanskrit shlokas, they are Guna, Loka, Kala, Agni, Haranetra, etc. For 4, you had Disha, Sindhu, Yuga, Irya, Harivahana, Brahmasya, and so on. For 5, you had Panchbana, Indriya, Rudrasya, that is the 5 faces of Shiva, Panchabhuta, Panchmahayagna, and so on. And so on. So I will not read each of them. Let us move to the next one. So similarly for 7, 8, 9, and for 0, Shunya, Bindu, Kha, Gagan, Akasha, Ambar, Vyom. So this is not an exhaustive list. There were many other symbols which are taken from nature, human morphology, animals, plants, everyday life, legends, traditions, religions, attributes of the divinities, for example, Vedic, Brahmin, Hindu, Jain, or Buddhist pantheons, and diverse social conventions. So I'll maybe read only 1 or 2 examples here. So this is from Surya Siddhanta, Chandrochaya Agnis Shunya. So I'll now do the Sandhi Vicheda here and the how it is translated. So you look at it. So if I do the Sandhi Vinyasa here, I will find so we start from here, Agni, that is representing 3, then Shunya is representing 0, then we have Ashwin that represents 2, then we have Vasu which represents 8, Sarpa is again 8. Again, another interesting thing you see that the number 8 is repeated, but they are using 2 different names here. So from here also it is clear that the way of representing the numbers was very advanced by that time. So Surya Siddhanta is dated 5th century AD, but even at that point of time, Arnav, that is 4, ocean. So if you put them in the order, so the numbers are written in exactly the same order in which they are represented in the shloka, and it becomes then fire is 3, wired is 0, then and so on. So 3, 0, 2, 8, 8, 4. Now you apply the place value system. So 3 into 10 to the power 0 plus 0 into 10 to the power 1 plus 2 into 10 square plus 8 into 10 cube plus 8 into 10 to the power 4 plus 4 into 10 to the power 5. And the number becomes 4,88,203. So this is the number which they wanted to represent in Surya Siddhanta. Similarly, let us look at the second numerical expression, which is Vasu, then Agni, then you have Yama, then you have Ashwin, then you have Shiki, then you have Dasra. So if you put them again in the same order, 8, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 8, then the number is 8 into 10 to the power 0 plus 3 into 10 plus 2 into 10 square plus 2 into 10 cube and so on. The numbers becomes 2,32,238. So this method of expressing numbers, it clearly shows a perfect understanding of 0 and the place value system using 10 as a base. And it is a type of symbolic representation subject to many variations. Yet the numerical symbols were always perfectly comprehensible to the Indian astronomers. Even if the value of certain words could vary according to the author, region, or the time when they were written, the context always confirmed the intended numerical value. And then there are dates on the Sanskrit inscriptions from the Southeast Asia and so on. So I'll just give maybe one or two examples here. So this is from Java, that is in the Southeast Asia, which is a part of Indonesia now. So there is a inscription there. It is Shrutindriya Swara. So if you do the Sandhi Vicheda here, it becomes Shruti, that is 4, then it is Indriya, that is 5, and then Rasar, that is senses, that is 6. So if you convert it into the number here, in the order, it becomes 4, then that is 4 into 10 to the power 0 plus 5 into 10 to the power 1 plus 6 into 10 square, it becomes 654. So it is Shaka era. So if you add 78 to convert it into the Christian era, it becomes 732. So similarly, there are older inscriptions from Champa. Then there is another one from which is referring to 598 Christian era. Then another one which is there. So it means that by that time, the Indian numerical system had traveled to the far east, because these are the places where it was there. I will just spend maybe 2 minutes on another thing, which is regarding the usage of big numbers. So I'll just go very quickly to that. Yeah. There is a text called Lok Vibhaga, which is a work on Jain cosmology, which constitutes one of the oldest known use of the word symbols. And from here, if you see, they have used the numbers like, I can just read it, 1, 4, 2, 3, 6, 7, 1, 3. Such a huge number has been used there. And another one is, again, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There is a 11-digit number which is there. And Loka Vibhaga is dated to, I'll tell you, it is dated to 25th August 458 Christian era. So at that point of time, such huge numbers were used and they were represented. They were properly represented. So I think I have taken more time. I would like to end my talk at this point of time by saying that the modern mathematical, scientific, and technological development would not have taken place if Indians had not developed the numeral system and the place value system. So I will just say that one sentence, that the modern development of science and technology owes its utmost gratitude to the Indian mathematicians who actually came up with the development of the numeral system and the decimal and place value system. So with this, once again, I am also associated with the Center for the Indian Knowledge System. As Professor Sen mentioned, that we welcome you all to sometime visit and interact with persons at IIT Kharagpur for further development of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an invigorating session and deep and stimulating insight on the history of numerals and decimal place value system. Now we have with us our third guest of honor, Professor Sampadanand Mishra, Professor, Rashtam School of Public Leadership, Rishihood University, Sonipat, Haryana, who is going to deliberate